Right, welcome back to the Chief Justice, to the Mutunga succession debate, town hall debate. We're talking about who should be Kenya's next Chief Justice. And very briefly now, before we engage the audience and we get your questions from Twitter, and of course against your panel, I'll look at very briefly, because we can't capture everything about these 6 candidates who have obviously achieved a lot in their lives, and look at their profiles very briefly, and again, in alphabetical order, using their surname. I'll start with Zamba Kitonga. He's 60 years old. His education background, Bachelor of Laws, University of Nairobi. His career, he was an LSK chair in 1997, chair of Committee of Experts in 2010 that delivered the Constitution, Commissioner Goldenberg Commission, and successfully contested for Kitui Governor's seat, and is the chair of the Council for Legal Education. The next one is the Justice David Kenani Maraga. He's 64 years of age. It's important to note the age I'm talking about because we'll discuss that. Apparently some are saying it's a factor. 64 years, Bachelor and Masters of Laws, University of Nairobi, covered criminal and civil litigations for 25 years, appointed High Court Judge in 2003, appointed Court of Appeal Judge in 2011, and served as the Chair of the Judiciary Committee on Elections. Justice Msaga Mbogoli, 63 years, Bachelor of Laws, University of Dar es Salaam, admitted to the bar in 1978, appointed High Court Judge at 34, that is back in 1987, and in 2010 he was appointed Principal Judge. We have next to that Justice Roslyn Nambuye, if I'm not wrong, alphabetically, age 64 years, Bachelor of Laws, University of Nairobi, Diploma in Law, Kenya School of Law in 1976, District Officer in 1976, 1980 was the first woman Chief Magistrate, 1991 third female High Court Judge in Kenya, and appointed in 2011 to the Court of Appeal. And Justice Al-Nashir Visram, 66 years old, Bachelor of Laws, University of Nairobi, 1973 was admitted to the bar, second degree in law at University of British Columbia, master's degree in international law, University of Nairobi. In 1980 to 1992, he was the CEO of the Aga Khan Foundation in Kenya. In 2001, appointed High Court Judge. In 2009, appointed Court of Appeal Judge. And finally, Justice Smokin Wanjala, age 56 years, Bachelor of Laws, University of Nairobi, admitted to the bar in 1985. Masters of Law, Columbia University, Doctorate in Law, PhD, University of Kent in Belgium. From 1986 to 2004, almost 20 years, law lecturer, University of Nairobi. 2003 was a secretary, joint secretary in the Dungu Land Commission. 2002 to 2004, executive director, Center Law and Research International. 2004 to 2009, assistant director, Kenya Anti-Corruption Commission. And 2012, he was appointed a judge of the Supreme Court. Looking at their ages, Apollo, I'll start with you. This we've heard from the political class. I don't know if it's the same in the legal fraternity. Some have been saying, yes, we know the prescribed term limit for a Chief Justice is 10 years. Some have been saying that in fact they say every political party or coalition or anybody who seeks power now would want a Chief Justice to only serve just before we go to the next election, none to go for two election cycles.
For me,
is that a factor?
For me, it shouldn't be a factor. For me, the issue of age and gender is the low threshold for me. What is important for a Chief Justice is the character, the ideological underpinning in terms of the law, and indeed some of them, even the younger judges there. If you look at Smokin Wanjala, a great teacher, probably here in the panel here, maybe he's taught most of them somehow. And in terms of academic, solid. You can, right now you can, amongst the people who have remained, in terms of academic, is the one who has got the best qualifications from what you've just read, as you have said.
Yes.
Yet is the youngest. For me, age is a low threshold. We should not even talk about it.
It's not a factor. You don't think it will be a factor in JSC for those pushing for age to be a factor?
I think the age shouldn't really be a factor. And I think Apollo has explained it very well.
You're all saying it should not be a factor. Do you think it will be a factor?
I think we're saying what I need.
Okay,
I think I agree with Apollo that it's not a factor. But I think what is most important and concerns me is what you just raised.
Yes.
That people are saying, or the political class is saying, that a person cannot serve, a chief justice cannot serve two election cycles. Are we saying that is very, very bad signal that we are sending? First, a chief justice has nothing to do with elections at all. Secondly, if we have appointed you Chief Justice and trust you that you are best qualified for the Chief Justice, it means it does not matter how many election cycles you preside over, you will not be biased, you will not influence, because they don't. Even when they preside over an election petition, they just have fidelity to the law. That's all we require you to do. We are not asking you to say who you like or you don't like, because judges are not supposed to have that kind of personality. So I think it's a very wrong signal, and it's the first time I've heard it, and I've not seen any country that has a rule like that.
We're going into what you think works for each, or what doesn't work for each. We'll look at the profiles again and talk about them. But you want to say something about this?
Yes, I worry about the political class, because they had the opportunity to invest that into the Constitution, and they didn't. And the Constitution sets the threshold of 70 as a retirement age. So from what you've read, everyone is qualified to be appointed as Chief Justice, but of course practicality, I mean, if you've got 2 years or 3 years under your belt, I don't know how practical it is, because I'm not sure. I don't mind being here, but I don't know that I want to come back here 2 years from now, because we appointed somebody who was too close to 70 years.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Harvey, you're saying it should be a factor?
It should be a factor. A few corrections. It's quite apparent that Apollo will prefer a much younger Chief Justice, in this case Mokin Wanjala. But anyway, I think it's for that reason that the age of Justice Al-Nasir Visram appeared to have been doctored. I think it's actually 64.
64.
And not 66. So you'll have a clear 6 years ahead of him. Now, age is quite important. Save for Justice Philip Tenoy, whose procurement was made much earlier within the old constitution as a judge of the High Court and Court of Appeal. I think the senior most judge on account of age in the Supreme Court was Mutunga himself. And I think there was a reason as to why age should matter. I don't think it will augur very well, especially in the legal profession, where seniority, as you have seen Monari here threatening us, that is much senior than us. You will imagine a situation whereby I'm supposed to lead this group.
Okay.
I think the senior most judge on account of age, if is most qualified on the other threshold for appointment, ought naturally to be the Chief Justice.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And we apologize if we've got Al-Nasir Visram's age wrong. You're saying it's 64.
It should be 64.
But Evans, let's take a look now at all these people, all these candidates, and I've just read their profiles. I will start again with Al-Nasir Visram. What do you think works for him, very briefly, and what works against him?
I think if the Judicial Service Commission bows to the wishes of the politicians in terms of looking at Justice Visram or any other judge that is going to be interviewed, then they will have gotten it wrong. Then they will be taking control of the judiciary. What the Judicial Service Commission should do is look at the merits of each candidate.
Exactly.
The years notwithstanding, because they're not 1 or 2 years so far apart from each other.
Yeah.
And then you want somebody who will be respected by his peers, by people who are older than him, and by people who are younger than him. But what I oppose, and thankfully the Court of Appeal got it right, was the judges who wanted to retire at 74. The judiciary is not a home for the aged.
Right.
You see, okay. So, and by saying that, I think even judges who are 30, 35, if they are found suitable,
they should
be elevated to the office of the Chief Justice and serve their 10 years.
Okay. Before we take questions from the audience, I want us to go very briefly and look at these profiles of these candidates. Apollo, Justice Al-Nasir Visram, what works for him, what doesn't work for him?
There's a big thing that does not work for him. When the first violation, or the threatened violation to this current constitution, happens when Al-Nasir Visram was meant to be used as an instrument. When the retired president, Kibaki, one day woke up in State House and said he had nominated Visram as the Chief Justice. Now, why does it not work for him? He knew very well.
That is when Raila said there were no consultations.
Leave consultation aside. That was not how to appoint a Chief Justice. And Visram kept quiet. He became mute. In other words, he
You
was
think he should have
acquiescing.
said something?
He could have said that that is not the constitution, because he swore to respect respect the constitution. For me, that one doesn't work for him.
What works for him then? Looking at his profile and everything is done.
He's been there for long. He writes well, very good legal judgments. That one I give it to him.
Okay, among the panel, who thinks there's anything substantive that works for him?
There's something must be said
Yes.
about Justice Visram's
Yes.
first appointment as Chief Justice. He was appointed under the Constitution, which said that there had to be consultation. It was not up to him to ensure that there was consultation.
Right.
Consultation was to take place among the two principals at that time. He was told, you have been appointed. All he could assume is that there were consultations.
Okay.
So he cannot be faulted on that piece of evidence, speculation from Apple.
Right.
I think we need to put the facts on that.
Can I
No, he has to be corrected. This one cannot pass for my learned senior. The appointment of the Chief Justice was not by the President sitting in State House and saying, I've appointed a Chief Justice. No. It had to be advertised, the position had to be advertised, and it had to be advertised by the JSC. That is the issue I'm raising. And then there had to be an interview. Yes.
Okay.
And that's all good.
Yes.
That's all good, but I don't know that we should penalize him for what happened in 2011? Just, by the way, he went to court because, of course, there was no single woman in the lineup, and of course, it was found to be unconstitutional. Having said that, I think it was a learning process. We had come from another regime, and we had just stepped into this new regime. I don't know that we should penalize. I don't think that we should penalize Justice Visram for having sat there and wondered what's happening around here. By the way, the Attorney General as well.
Do you think there's anything that works for him?
Well, I think there are many things that work for Justice Al-Nasir Visram, but let me debunk the mystery in what appears to be a very big assault from Apollo. Now, two things. At the time Justice Al-Nasir Visram was appointed, was nominated as Chief Justice, there was no requirement that he shall be procured competitively through the Judicial Service Commission. And in fact, the issue that went to court and ultimately Parliament is whether or not Right Honorable Raila Odinga had been consulted. And I think there was consensus that that issue should rest as it is. Number two, all this heat appears to have been created by the Law Society of Kenya through a very big division. And I think it was highly attributable to Apollo Mbowe himself, and not the chairman or the vice chairman, who at one point in time distanced themselves. But anyway, let me look at this from this point of view. This particular judge, in my own evaluation, stands out with very good leadership qualities. He holds 3 peculiar leadership offices within the Court of Appeal. Even on academia and his time in practice from this side as a lawyer, and during his current time as a judge, I think if given an opportunity, he will make a very good Chief Justice, as opposed to what Apollo says here.
You referred to Justice Smokin Wanjala. Let's look at him again. I'll start with you, Gladys. What do you think works for or against him?
I mean, I think this brings us back to the same thing I said at the beginning, that I think, you know, all of them are well qualified. I think the only thing that may work against Smokin Wanjala is the fact that he's already, I mean, there has been a requirement that he should be investigated as recommended by Parliament. That becomes an issue. He's also, so he's been adversely mentioned, and I think that would be a problem. And I think that will work against him. But in terms of academic qualifications, in terms of his grounding as a lawyer, that works for him.
Anything that works for him?
Yes. This is one man who, when the president almost also defied the constitution again by purporting to increase the term of Ringera in what my brother has just talked about, the then CASA, Kenya Anti-Corruption Commission. He is the first one who said, no, that is not the law. I am stepping out. He is the first one who stepped out when Ringera still wanted to continue in this step.
Evans, Justice Sagambogoli, what works for or against him?
Great experience, judge from year 34 until now 64. Steady, pair of hands. Can be trusted to rule within the law.
Not rule.
And more importantly, there are precedents on record that speak for Justice Msanga Mugondo.
Okay.
He will make a good Chief Justice.
Anything that works against him?
I think he's been a judge for a very long period of time. He was appointed at the age of 34. I mean, for that entire period of time to be a High Court judge, much as he may have all those qualities, then there is a lot of explaining as why there's been no gradual development. And I'll still go back to my point. It's a pecking order. How do you expect much senior judges, not only on account of academic qualification, age, but experience, both from the bar and the bench, to resonate with such an appointment? I think this is something that Judicial Service Commission will need to do a balancing act on.
Right. Judy, Justice Roslyn Nambuye.
Yes.
There's been a further thing you talked about it, that people think we can't have a lady Chief Justice and a lady Deputy Chief Justice. What do you think works for her or against her?
Integrity. She is certainly a woman of integrity. I don't know that there's anybody who would ever say that Justice Nambuye ever seemed to be influenced by any other concerns except for the facts before her. She is a hard worker. And she's a woman. And that's important.
Anything that works against her?
Again, we have to go to the vetting board.
Yeah.
These are across the board, several of them. Who are then judicial officers. Some of them escaped by a whisker. And you can see even how the decisions that were made by the vetting board, some were escaping with 3 to 4 majority decision. There were several complaints against Nambuye. But again, on the first one, she was found unsuitable by the vetting board.
Yes. And
then later on, again, on appeal, she was again found suitable, and I'm not saying that she has a problem, but there was also a problem with the vetting board, the way they were doing their vetting, because most of the people who they found unsuitable, quite a sizable number, came back again.
Right. Even
and I think we said
something needs to be corrected. During the vetting of the first one,
yes.
The one we called radical surgery, yes. But it was actually surgery by radicals. She was found guilty.
Yes.
And then she appealed. But she was appointed back to the Court of Appeal by President Kibaki. And that appeal died.
Yes.
That is the history of justice.
Yes.
And so was the second attempt vetting team. Because you're going to take a short break for the tech news highlights. Tell me about Justice David Maraga.
David Maraga, a steady pair of hands as well, a good lawyer. He has joined the judiciary at a good time, and he has made decisions that we are proud of. There was a complaint against him which did not make any sense, and he was discharged from that. He writes very well, he understands this country very well, and he can be trusted to be a good Chief Justice.
Anyone who is of contrary opinion?
Again, I'm a privy to. I don't have a contrary opinion, but because because of my former position, I'm a privy to a lot of information.
Do you have official secrecy act?
No. We are choosing the Chief Justice, but here on Maraga, I want to concur with my senior. Again, if you start from the branch, just Maraga stayed a lot in Nakuru. That's why he even practiced law, and I think he has accolades from the legal fraternity in that area.
Okay. Finally, we can begin. Zamba Kitonga, he's the only person who's not a judge here. What do you think about Zamba Kitonga? I'll start with Julia.
Much experienced as a lawyer in legal practice. You know that the constitution that we have, he was the chair of the committee of experts, I think it was. So he certainly is very experienced. I actually don't have anything adverse against him. But as I said, in the end, the benchmark is who has the soft skills to take this country forward.
One of the soft skills that Zamba Kitonga will bring to the judiciary is the fact that he's a peacemaker. A unifying body, which he was at the law society. And what a Chief Justice requires to be is to bring consensus within the Supreme Court. And that you will see from Zamba Kitonga.
Right, on Twitter we have Counsel Pasanta at Senior Counsel saying wisdom does not come alone, it also comes with age. Age is an issue. We need a Chief Justice that commands respect from peers. Keep talking to us, a lot of tweets coming in. Mutunga Succession is the hashtag. After this break, we're taking news